だと。
保湿するしかない。
ダメだ。
Data Live follows the story of Shido Itsuka, a high school student who finds himself in the middle of a strange phenomenon known as spatial quakes, which cause devastating earthquakes and distortions in reality. To stop these disasters, Shido is recruited by a secret organization called Rata Tosca to use his unique ability to seal the powers of the mysterious and powerful beings known as spirits, who are responsible for causing the quakes. Along the way, Shido must navigate his relationships with these powerful beings, some of whom develop romantic feelings for him, all while trying to save the world from destruction. With a mix of action, comedy, and romance, Data Live is a thrilling anime adventure that has captured the hearts of fans worldwide. The series kicks off with a devastating spatial quake wreaking havoc at the heart of Eurasia. Fast forward 30 years later, and we find ourselves in Tengu City, Japan, where the bubbly Kotori Itsuka and her doting adopted brother Shido reside. At the start of the day's festivities, Kotori and Shido make a pact to meet later at a diner. As Shido's classes come to a close, an alarm blares throughout the city, signaling the approach of another spatial quake and prompting citizens to seek refuge in designated shelters. Shido, unable to reach his sister, turns to his GPS to confirm her location, only to find out that she's still in the city, as promised. Braving the danger outside, Shido sets out to find Kotori, and that's when he encounters a spirit armor girl in the center of a massive crater caused by the quake. With the AST unit, a group tasked with eradicating spirits, closing in on the spirit, Shido bears witness to his popular classmate Origami Tobichi joining the fray as a member of the AST. As fate would have it, Shido finds himself aboard the airship Fraxinus, home to the Rata Tosca organization, with the serious Kotori as the commander. Here, he learns about the spirits and discovers his unique ability to seal away their powers by making them fall in love with him. As Shido undergoes stage 2 of his training, he faces practical application upon real humans. He begins with his teacher Tamai Okamin, who is not alone in her admiration for him. Reina Murasami and Kotori assist her, and they all fall head over heels in obsessive love with Shido. Finding their behavior overwhelming, he runs away and bumps into Origami, who becomes his next practice partner. Unexpectedly, Shido ends up unintentionally starting a relationship with Origami, but just as things seem to be settling down, a spatial quake alarm goes off, and everyone prepares for the appearance of the Princess Spirit at RIZZ High School. Amidst the chaos, the students are evacuated, and part of the school is destroyed by the spatial quake. But Shido, ever the hero, heads inside the school to confront Princess. As he approaches her, he makes a connection with her and names her Toka. However, their moment is cut short when the AST shows up and engages Toka from long range with their rifles, intent on killing her. But Origami sees Toka with Shido and assumes she is holding him hostage. Seeing that Shido is now her boyfriend, Origami battles Toka in close combat, but is injured in the process. The next day, as Shido rummages through the collateral damage, Toka appears before him, ready for their date. Before we continue, take a moment to answer the question of the day. What is the most visually stunning anime you've ever watched? Comment down below for a chance to be shouted out. Now back to the recap. As the sun shines down on the bustling streets of the city, Shido and Toka are strolling hand in hand on their long-awaited date. The Fraxinus crew is watching over them from a distance, ensuring that everything goes smoothly. Toka's excitement is palpable as she tries every food that comes her way. However, her lack of experience with dates leads her to believe that each new dish is a date, much to Shido's amusement. As they make their way through the shopping area, Toka is suddenly overwhelmed by the crowd, thinking that humanity is launching an attack on her. Origami is lurking in the shadows, observing their every move, while Shido does his best to keep Toka calm. They continue their journey to an arcade dominated by crane games, where Toka's eyes are fixed on a particular prize. In a moment of excitement, Toka accidentally reveals her bond with Shido. They then head to a cliff edge, where Toka finally understands what a date truly is. She realizes why the mecha people want to protect the world that is so kind, fun, and beautiful from destruction. Meanwhile, Origami is granted permission to eliminate Toka with a single blast, but Shido intervenes and takes the hit. Toka, filled with rage, attacks Origami with all her might. Just as she is about to deliver the final blow, Shido mysteriously returns to life, with his wounds completely healed. Falling from the sky towards Toka, he manages to intercept her attack just in time. With the city on the brink of destruction, Toka kisses Shido while they glide down to the cliff edge, and her astral dress disappears. She asks him to take her on another date. As Toka enters Shido's class, a fierce rivalry instantly erupts between her and Origami. Meanwhile, on a rainy day, Shido dashes through a shrine and stumbles upon Yoshino for the first time. Initially mistaking her for an ordinary girl, he carries on with his day. But at school, things heat up as Toka vies for Shido's attention by baking cookies, much to Origami's chagrin. Upon returning home, Shido is hit with some unexpected news. Toka will be residing with him. Why, you ask? Well, he's successfully sealed her powers and it's time for some training. Kotori fills him in on the details, reminding him that there are more spirits to seal. As the spatial quake alarm sounds during school, Shido rushes to investigate, only to find that it's Yoshino, aka Hermit, causing the disturbance. Toka stays put in the shelter, while Shido ventures out to confront Yoshino. But things take an unexpected turn when Toka decides to follow him and inadvertently witnesses their accidental smooch. Toka, feeling betrayed, reclaims her powers from Shido and sets her sights on Yoshino, provoking an all-out attack. However, Yoshino has a few tricks up her sleeve. Her angel Zadkiel allows her to escape the nearby AST. Meanwhile, Origami sets her sights on Yoshinon, Yoshino's puppet. Toka has been avoiding Shido ever since she learned about what happened between him and Yoshino. She's been struggling to come to terms with her feelings about the whole situation, but she decides to confide in Reina, hoping for some advice and clarity on the matter. Meanwhile, Shido is helping Yoshino search for her beloved puppet, Yoshinon. As they search, Yoshino becomes hungry, and Shido suggests they go to his house to eat. While there, Yoshino reveals that Yoshinon is not just a puppet, but also her friend, a strong, cool, and bold hero who embodies everything she wishes to be. However, just as Shido is getting closer to Yoshino, Toka bursts in, attempting to apologize but misinterpreting the situation entirely. Yoshino disappears, leaving Toka to barge out once again. Shido learns that Yoshinon is with Origami, who tries to make progress between them, but her mission cuts the conversation short. As it turns out, Yoshino is being targeted by the AST, but Shido has a plan to save her with Toka's help. As Toka acts as a decoy, Shido manages to break through Yoshino's barrier with Yoshinon and fulfill his promise to her. With Yoshino's trust in him established, Shido seals her powers. In the last few scenes, we learn that the housing for the spirits has been completed, allowing Toka and Yoshino to move in together. Toka and Yoshino are eager to visit the hot springs, so Shido takes charge and arranges for them to go to Tengu Gokuraku hot springs. However, the mischievous and perverted Kyohei Kanazuki tries to tag along and convince Kotori to join them, but his true intentions are exposed, leading to his punishment of digging and refilling a hole for the next week. In the meantime, Ryoko Kusakabe from the AST receives news that the DM Corporation is sending reinforcements, which dashes her hopes for a vacation. She's disappointed, but is convinced by another AST member to go to the hot springs instead. Initially uninterested, Origami receives a call from Shido, and overhears that he's going to the hot springs with Toka, which sparks her interest. While on the way, Yoshino receives loving attention from Shido, which frustrates Toka to the point where she collapses the road, causing chaos and disrupting the train the AST is riding. The AST eventually arrives at the hot springs, but Ratatoska intervenes to prevent contact between the two groups. Kotori orders Datetown to enter battle mode level 2 and opens fire on the AST, leading to a fierce battle that causes Yoshinon to fly off. In the midst of the firefight, Shido goes to find Yoshinon and is almost killed by Ratatoska's destruct mode. However, Toka comes to his rescue, and they are watched over by Origami and the rest of the AST members. Finally, everyone reaches the hot springs, only to find that Yoshino's actions have partially frozen the water. Fortunately, Kyohei has dug up a hot spring, which the group thoroughly enjoys. As the group relaxes, Mana Takamiya arrives in Japan. Mana is in the midst of a high-stakes 10 versus 1 practice match against Origami's unit. all while keeping in mind the looming threat of revealing her identity as Shido's biological sister. In a stunning turn of events, Kurumi Tokisaki, a spirit, transfers into Shido's class. While touring the school with Shido, they are followed by Origami and Toka, adding an element of tension to an already complex situation. As Shido attempts to seduce Kurumi, she is also making her own moves to get closer to him, revealing her codename Nightmare and cementing her reputation as the most deadly spirit of all. But the drama doesn't end there. After school, Kurumi takes matters into her own hands and kills 3 delinquents, leading to a confrontation with Mana. Later on, Mana runs into Shido, and the conversation takes a surprising turn when she reveals more about herself, leading to a quarrel with Kotori that only deepens the mystery surrounding her past. As if that weren't enough, the next day at school, Shido learns that Kurumi was killed during her confrontation with Mana, yet she somehow appears in class as if nothing happened. Origami seizes the opportunity to question Kurumi in a secluded place, and the truth is finally revealed. Kurumi is pursuing Shido for his extended lifespan. Shido's night out turns into a whirlwind of unexpected events. Despite inviting Kurumi, he finds himself on a polygamous date thanks to Toka's seduction and Origami's insistence. The pressure mounts as Shido realizes he can't deny any of the girl's requests. Toka would be heartbroken, and Origami would become suspicious, putting Shido's plans to seal the deal with Kurumi at risk. The girls' dates all happen around the same time, with their entertainment venues located close to each other. Thankfully, Ratatoska comes to Shido's rescue by teleporting him to each location, while keeping a close eye on their emotional levels. While Shido is off with the other girls, Kurumi finds herself in a situation with some boys who are harassing a stray cat. She manages to persuade them to let her join in their game, and Ratatoska loses sight of her. Meanwhile, Origami and Toka bump into each other and both realize they're trying to find Shido. Origami quickly runs off, worried that Shido might be with someone else. As Shido finishes his final date with Kurumi, he heads back to look for her, but instead he discovers a grisly scene of blood and body parts. To his horror, he sees Kurumi standing there, having killed one of her tormentors. She holds him within her clutches, but just as things are getting out of hand, Mana intervenes wearing her CR unit. Mana has just killed Kurumi and is now explaining everything to Shido. However, after being forced away, Shido is avoiding Origami and Toka. He runs into them, but the sight of Kurumi's death makes him reluctant to face them. Fortunately, Toka discovers the reason for Shido's behavior and tries to cheer him up by continuing their date. As Shido gains insight into Kurumi, he declares the next day that he will save her. But Kurumi tries to dissuade him by encasing the school in her field while threatening the school and the town. Meanwhile, Origami and Toka engage in battles with other copies of Kurumi. As Shido tries to convince Kurumi, she is killed by another version of herself, using Zafkiel to twist time. Toka and Origami arrive, and it is revealed that the hands in Kurumi's shadow belong to her past selves. Kurumi takes everyone hostage and attempts to blow a spatial quake, but Kotori appears as the Ifrit flame spirit to cancel it. Kotori fights Kurumi. After a brief exchange of words, Kurumi deftly employs one of her skills to immobilize Kotori, while creating multiple copies of herself and firing several shots at her. Despite being hit multiple times, Kotori's remarkable healing ability saves her from certain death. Kurumi, visibly shaken by this unexpected turn of events, quickly sends her copies to attack Shido, but Kotori valiantly intervenes, sacrificing herself to protect him and destroy Kurumi's clones. As the battle rages on, Kurumi attempts to subdue Kotori, but her efforts are only temporary. With a swift flick of her wrist, Kotori draws her weapon and fires at Kurumi, who in a panic, calls forth more copies to shield herself. Shido, desperate to prevent any further bloodshed, implores Kotori to spare Kurumi, but his pleas fall on deaf ears. It is then that he realizes Kotori is no longer the person he once knew. In a selfless act of courage, Shido steps forward to shield Kurumi, but Kotori's shot is miraculously deflected at the last moment. As he awakens from a dream of events that occurred 5 years prior, Shido finds himself aboard the Fraxinus, where he is comforted by Reina before setting out to check on Kotori's condition. Heartbroken and unable to see Mana, Shido instead encounters Origami at the hospital, who tries to win his affection. As he prepares to leave her room that evening, Origami reveals her plan to seek vengeance for her parents' death by killing the flame spirit, which led her to join the AST. As Shido ponders the complex situation involving Kotori and the 5-year event, he considers the statements made by both Kotori and Origami, regarding the residential fire, with Ratatoska's headquarters personnel unanimously agreeing that Ocean Park is the perfect location for Shido's date. He undergoes training outlined by Reina, which involves Shido, Toka, and Yoshino buying swimsuits. As Toka asks about the swimsuit she should choose, Origami playfully teases her by insinuating that it's a new piece of anti-spirit equipment. However, Origami takes her questioning to the next level by inquiring about Ifrit, and even goes as far as to use excessively polite language. When she realizes that Toka's information is of no use, Origami pressures Shido into viewing her own selection of swimsuits. Toka and Origami then turn it into a competition, vying for Shido's attention in hopes of winning the coveted date. Yoshino ultimately emerges as the winner, but later on the Fraxinus, Shido watches a video of the fire from 5 years ago. As he recognizes a spirit, phantom, in the footage, a series of flashbacks ensue, leading to Shido passing out. The next day, Toka and Yoshino accompany Shido to help Kotori, who has been struggling with her mental state. They are eventually able to succeed in easing her distress, and Shido's determination to help his sister is reignited. He decides to take Kotori away alone, away from the prying eyes of Ratatoska and the AST. Meanwhile, at the AST base, Origami is given a first-hand view of the DW-029 Annihilator gear, codenamed White Licorice, which has been sent there by DM Industries for the use of mana. In a conversation with Ryoko, she learns that there is footage of the epic battle between Kotori and Kurumi. In the last scene, Origami is staring at a frame from the footage showing Kotori as she realizes who Ifrit is. A frightened Kotori clings to Shido's arm tightly as they ride various roller coasters and attractions at the amusement park on their date. Despite the lack of communication, Ratatoska keeps a close eye on the situation, with Kyohei making masochistic comments about missed opportunities. As they separate briefly, Yoshino confides in Toka about Kotori's secret as a spirit and Shido's efforts to seal her powers. Suddenly, Origami appears and steals the white licorice before attacking Kotori while she's talking to Shido. In response, Kotori transforms into her spirit form and fights back, but Origami goes into a full rampage and launches a full-scale offensive. Just as Kotori is about to strike a finishing blow, Origami drops a bombshell, accusing Kotori of murdering her parents. The accusation leaves Kotori stunned, which gives Origami the chance to trap her. Shido intervenes to delay Origami's attack, but it seems like a lost cause until Toka and Yoshino arrive on the scene. Toka bravely tries to stop Origami, but her ordnance is exploding closer and closer to Shido and Kotori. Suddenly, the two share a kiss, effectively sealing Ifrit and stopping Origami in her tracks. In that moment, Shido and Kotori remember everything that happened 5 years ago. Shido pleads with Origami as she reaches the operational limit of white licorice and collapses from exhaustion. Meanwhile, Kurumi watches from a nearby rooftop, her eyes fixed on the unfolding drama. After the dust settles, Reina reveals that the real date wasn't necessary because Kotori's affection for Shido had never wavered. Kotori is embarrassed when Shido confesses his love for her, but he adds that he'll accept any punishment as her brother. During the credits, we see that white licorice has been returned to the AST, while Origami is recovering in the hospital under guard. As Shido and Toka prepare to kiss, Ratatoska interrupts, and Yoshinon and Yoshino simply say, "To be continued, sometime. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe, and don't forget to drop a comment for a chance to be shouted out. Go check out our channel for other awesome anime recaps just like this one."